Hello, so my name is Caz Binstead, and I'm the co-lead of Therapists Connect. For anyone who doesn't know Therapists Connect, we are a online platform which is all about connecting therapists, as the name suggests. If you want to connect with us, you can find us over on Twitter. Our handle is therapists_C, and you can also put tweets up, which we often retweet using our hashtag Therapists Connect. Our Instagram account is Therapists Connect, as is our Facebook account as well. So I am absolutely delighted to be here today for a Therapists Create special. Therapists Create is one of the projects that I have set up in Therapists Connect, and I'm here with Sam Lee. So welcome, Sam.
Hi.
So I'm going to introduce Sam properly in a moment, but we're here today to talk about a couple of things, to talk a little bit about the Therapists Create project, but to talk mainly about Sam's new poetry collection. So this recording is called Therapists Create Special. Samantha Lee introduces her new mental health poetry collection. So really delighted to have you here. I'm just gonna read your bio out so everybody knows a little bit about you.
Go for it.
So Samantha Lee is a BACP registered counsellor working in private practice. A large part of her experience covers the fields of domestic abuse and addiction. She has a specialist interest in the effects of past trauma in adult life and a passion for inner child work, for which she has written online training courses for the UK counselling community. Based near the coast in Essex, she's never happier than when she's out walking, taking photos with her trusty iPhone and spending time with her family and friends. And if you want to find out more about her work in general, you can visit her website, www.counselling4, that's the number, essex.co.uk. And you'll also find her in quite a lot of the counselling Facebook groups as well. So yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we've kind of known each other properly for a little bit over a year. Although I was aware of you, you probably weren't aware of me, but I was aware of you before that.
My reputation preceded me.
Your reputation, yes.
Actually, in a good way.
I've become more well known in the last 2 years, but before that, I was kind of just happily skulking around online, unknown. That's probably not true, but you were you've been in Facebook groups for quite a few years, and you've been dropping in your poetry, and often dropping in accompanying photography as well, and that's why you really stood out to me, because that's something I do, that's something I really like, and you always have a lovely smiley face alongside it as well.
Thank you. Make me blush.
Yeah, so when did you start doing that? When did you start kind of thinking, I'm going to put my poetry out there into the communities?
Well, it's hard to remember exactly what happened now, because it was quite a while ago, but I remember that I think I started off, I was only a member of one of the counselling groups, Good Enough Counsellors. I think that I'd tried some of the bigger ones, but they weren't really that interactive. It was more about questions and stuff, and I'm a bit more of a creative rather than a logical work style person. So I'd written this poem about being a counsellor, and I just thought, I wonder if anybody else will resonate with that if I put it on the group. And I just thought, oh, I might get a few people go, oh, that's good, I like that. And it just got so many responses and so many people connected with the words. It was really quite surprising for me. So that was kind of the start of it. I mean, I've always liked writing the odd little poem every now and then if inspiration hits, but it was really, you know, about 3 or 4 years ago that I really started to write the poems about the thoughts that were in my head, because I'm an overthinker and I always have lots and lots of thoughts in my head, and trying to explain something that I'm thinking about in normal sentences just goes on forever sometimes, and I get on my own nerves. So I tried to start writing poems about the things that I was thinking about, to do with stuff that I'd gone through, and made it into a poem so it's more concise. It's easier to read and it still makes sense. And that's probably a really long way of describing what what you've just asked me.
No, absolutely, and I'm sure that will resonate with some people. So did you just kind of discover poetry just kind of like that, just experimenting yourself?
Yeah, because I never studied poetry at school. I only did English language at school. I didn't do English literature because I wasn't clever enough at that point. So, you know, I learnt the basics of poetry, how to write a rhyme. And it wasn't until I got a bit older that I started to occasionally write, you know, longer poems. But even now, I don't class myself as a poet as such. I just like writing verses that tell a story, I suppose. That I mean, I know that is what poetry is, but I'm not qualified, you know. I haven't got qualifications, and I don't know all of the proper names for poetry, and you know, the verses and that kind of thing. So I just write what I write.
And you you and I have had many conversations about this, well, just so the viewers know, so when Sam and I met properly, it was at Therapist Connect event, which was actually our first kind of creative event that we did for our first birthday, which was a poetry event, and this is something that I organised, which is so close to my heart because I am a poet as well, and I love poetry, and this is what eventually obviously led into kind of the idea for Therapists Create. So I think Sam, you'd sent me an email saying that you were interested, that you'd kind of seen about it. And we kind of were talking, and this came up about, you know, what is a poet, and you were a bit unsure. You were like, I'm not really sure if I will fit there, and it's such an interesting question. What is a poet? Like, is a poet someone who I don't know, is qualified in some way, or actually is a poet someone who can just speak from the heart and you know, and go with it, and exactly what in fact your book says here on the back, which is kind of what you've said, which is, you know, about how you find the words for talking about things. And I think this is one of your hopes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the book later, but this is one of your hopes for the book, that your own words can help inspire people to kind of resonate with their experiences.
Yeah, I think it's just a lovely way of, when you've got a bit of a cloud in your head of stuff that just doesn't seem to be clearing, for me anyway, to be able to start writing some words down and trying to sort of rein them in a bit and make them into coherent verses that just condense it and break it down a bit more, and untangle the mess, if you like, so that, you know, at the end of it, it's a simple block of words that just tell a story about what's in my head. That's how I see poetry. And you know, I suppose I question whether I'm a real poet, because when I read, you know, the poetry that is well known throughout the world, some of it, I just read it and I scratch my head and I think, well, what the hell was that about? I don't understand that. I don't get that. I don't know what that means. And I guess that's why mine is more simple, is because I just want to be able to read it and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then I suppose, you know, even the well-known poetry that's got all the colourful, beautiful language and everything, it's going to make sense to somebody, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's yeah, this is something we've discussed about. It's so subjective, I think, how poetry can speak to people. And I think definitely, I mean, modern poetry has become much more maybe about language and how you construct a poem, and what that looks like and things, but actually, and I think this is why I like your poetry, because I am not so much a fan of modern poetry, actually, in what we understand it to kind of be in its popular sense, if you like. But I'm a fan of romantic poetry, which of course is going back a long time. And yet I'm a fan of your poetry, because I see a real similarity between those styles. Because of course,
Really?
actually, yeah, because of course, actually, that was all to do with connecting with the internal, and also connecting with nature as well, and being able to really speak from the heart and from the soul, and go into those depths of emotion. So it's so fascinating, actually, for me, that you could take these different, what appears to be very different styles, or like for you feeling like, oh, I don't know whether I'm really a poet or whatever, and actually, yeah, that for someone, well, I'll speak for myself here, for just not even as a poet, for just as a lay person reading poetry, yeah, you know, like that speaks to me in the same way that poetry from a long time ago, that I have loved, you know, since I was a teenager, speaks to me as well.
Oh,
So
that's lovely. I actually did have someone comment on one of my poems once. They said, I really don't like poetry normally, but I like your poetry. So
yes,
there you go. Proof's
yeah,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, and I mean, it's certainly one of the, someone put actually in trainee talks, a student discussion group, that we run at Therapists Connect, and we run it every Monday. If anyone's interested in coming, we run it every Monday at 2 o'clock on Twitter, and so I was running the session. I run it with Dr. Peter Blundell. We're both the facilitators there, and I was running the discussion on creativity, because it was World Poetry Day, and someone said that, you know, when I was at school, I was really put off poetry because it just, I didn't understand it, and it didn't feel like a form of connection. Actually, it felt like there was a bit of a barrier there. Exactly like you said there, that someone said, I don't normally like poetry, but I like your poetry. And I think that's often also what people are looking for, that, you know, actually, if it's creativity is all meant to be about people being able to express themselves and to open levels of connection. So actually, that's great, isn't it, if people feel like, oh, actually, I felt there's a bit of a barrier, and, you know, this is something I can understand, and this is something that is relatable to me.
Yeah, we're all different, aren't we? And I think that's why, you know, you should never worry about whether you look at another counsellor's work online and you think, oh, mine's not like that, maybe I should be more like that. But actually, if you just be yourself, then you're going to find your people, because people will read your stuff and go, oh, I like the sound of her. You know, they'll get you. So just, you know, if ever you do anything online, don't try to be like other people, just be you, and the people that will be your people will find you. That's what I've found anyway.
Absolutely agree. I mean, amen to that. Absolutely. You know, it's all about authenticity. And actually, that poetry event that we did, it was such a nice space, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. I felt so chilled at the end of that. It was like, oh, I'm so glad I did that now.
Yeah, me too. Because I think that really embodied that. You know, there's so many different types of poets there, and you know, you and I both took part, but we had a whole range of different poets in the community, with, like, you know, being authentic, and you know, but everyone was very supportive, and you know, yeah, it was a great experience. So yeah, and then for us at Therapist Connect, we've gone on, and we started the Therapist Create project, which we launched in the autumn. So this is at the moment being run on Instagram. So if anyone's interested in that, please do email us, and I can add you to our mailing list. I'm just going to give you the email address. So our email address is info@therapists-connect.com. So if you email us and just put for attention of Caz, CAZ, then I can add you onto the Therapist Create mailing list. And the aim there is really to well, to do a little bit of what we're talking about here, to encourage people to just be able to be themselves, be authentic, put their work out, even if they might feel like they don't usually do that, but to explore. And we set themes, so yeah, to just be able to kind of put your work out. And we run showcases, or we will run some more showcases on Instagram. Yeah, and if you're picked, then yeah, we will put your work on our Instagram page. So the last show was really fun as well, and Sam put a couple of the poems. Actually, I noticed there were a couple in here that were in that showcase, so that was really nice to see. Yeah, and especially now, because it was a bit I think the last one, we obviously couldn't really ignore the pandemic. We felt we had to be real to what was going on, but hopefully things might be a little bit more hopeful, fingers crossed. Who knows? Yeah, moving forward with that. So do get in touch if you're kind of a creative, or if you're interested in being, you know, exploring that side of yourself. So yeah, so let's get onto the book. So this is the book. The little book.
Looking at it.
Okay, I'm just going to show you also the ISBN number. Can you see that, Sam?
It's a bit blurry.
Okay, so it's ISBN. For anyone, ISBN number, this is how you find books. So it's an easy way.
Actually, Caz, that might not work, because it's only available on Amazon. You can only buy it on Amazon. Okay, it's not available in bookshops.
Stick the title in with Sam Lee's name, Samantha Lee, there on Amazon, and you should be able to find it. How much is it, Sam?
Well, it's normally £10.99 for the paperback and £6.99 for the electronic version. You know, the I've forgotten what you call it. Kindle, that's it. Yep. But Amazon, they just do little sales every now and then. So it really does depend on when you go on there, because sometimes it's normal price and sometimes you get it for cheaper. So keep a lookout. You might get a bargain.
You could get it for 1p. You know, who knows?
You never know.
Although Sam hopes not, because she wants to make a little bit more money and deserves to. But yeah, tell me about the book, and tell everyone about the book.
Well, do you know what? I don't think without other people's input, I would ever have bothered to have written the book. It's only because people kept saying, when I was sharing the poetry, oh, has this been published? Are you going to be writing a book, or you should be writing a book? That I kind of ended up on a conversation with my business coach one day, just going, shall I write a book? And she was like, I think it's a good idea. Why not? So that was why I did it. You know, I'd always thought I'd love to write a book, but I never thought I'd love to write a poetry book. But it did just seem to be, well, you know, these poems do seem to be helping people and resonating with a lot of people when they're going through some really difficult stuff. And, you know, why keep it to myself? let it go out onto the public platform, and then hopefully it will help other people. And that's why I chose the title, because it is just about, you know, simple poems that when you're having a bad day, and it's about, you know, there's lots of different sections in the book about different difficult areas that we all go through. Pick up the book, read a poem, and if it connects and, you know, soothes your heart, then fantastic. So yeah, that's why it came out.
Yeah. And who are you hoping, who's your kind of, I don't know, who do you hope by is of the, I can't, lost my words there. I was going to say target audience. I'll use the jargon that you're supposed to use. Yeah, what's your target audience?
Anyone that's just like me, you know, anyone that is feeling something but they don't quite know how to describe that something. When you're lost for words, to just be able to read a poem and feel soothed by it. You know, like when you're listening to the radio sometimes and you're feeling a bit sad, or you're feeling happy, or a bit meh, and a song comes on and it completely changes your mood, and it fills you with something, or you connect with it. You know, if you're sad, it makes you cry, and that's healing. Same with poetry. You know, if you're feeling something and you're reading a book of poems, you're bound to tap into something that you're going to connect to, and it can be really healing. And I also use the book with my clients sometimes when they get stuck on a particular subject, and I'll say, let's have a read of this poem, and it just encourages them to expand on what it is that they're feeling, you know, because sometimes they go, I don't really know, they haven't got the words, and the poem gives them words.
Yeah.
So, you know, it can be for anybody. It can be for if you're having a good day, a bad day, you like using poetry in therapy, you just like poetry full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm sure that if a marketing person was watching this, they'd be saying you really need to firm up your marketing message so that you've got a, you know, a particular audience and everything. But that's the thing, it's for anybody. I don't know what else to say about that. It's for anybody that's, you know, just needs something to connect to.
Yeah, well, I think in a way what you're saying is therapists could be reading this for themselves, or they could be using it in the room with their clients.
Definitely.
But also, you know, clients could be buying this book. People could be buying this book, as people.
You know, therapists are clients too, aren't they? That's the thing. So, you know, that book, basically, the way that I've written it, if you started to read it right from the beginning and you read it right through to the end, it actually tells a story of me evolving, you know, the person that I was before I went for therapy and started my counselling training, and the things that I experienced before that, and then the experiences I've had during and since that. It tells that story, my journey as a therapist. It tells some of the stories of my clients in those poems. It's experiences I've had as a therapist with my clients, experiences I've had on my own, and experiences that I've watched others go through. So honestly, you know, when I say, if we talk about therapists, just remember that, you know, therapists are clients too, and we all go through stuff in life that doesn't always make sense to us. And so those poems hopefully will help you make sense of some of the stuff you go through some days.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. Spoken from the heart, really spoken from the heart there. You wrote a poem called I'm a Therapist, but everyone check it out. It's a really good poem.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to invite you, Sam, to read one of your favourite poems from the book now.
Okay. Do you know what? I did say earlier that I was going to choose Boy to Man, because that is one of my favourites, but we've talked about heart quite a lot today. And so I think I might choose the poem called Heart. And it's for anybody who has been through a relationship that has ended and can feel all of the emotions related to that and wonder whether they're ever going to get through it and be happy again. So here we go. So it's called Heart. Bless my gentle, loving heart. It's lost its shape today. The love that made it feel so full got up and walked away. That tender touch that made it skip, the love that made it swell, has turned into a viscous punch, left pain I cannot quell. My gentle heart has fallen, laying heavy on its side. Your parting kick has ripped it, left a gaping wound inside. The trust that kept it warm has gone, I barely feel it there. The beat has lost its strength, it flounders, knowing you don't care. Dear heart, you're stronger than you think. You may feel like this now, but life has taught me hearts repair. They learn to heal somehow. For now though, gentle loving heart, it's time for you to grieve. Let sadness hold your loving curves till once more you can breathe.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Listen, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. You know, folks, do check the book out. You know, I really, well, all I can say is, you know, I love Sam's poetry, but I know that so many therapists do. And I know this because I see it in the Facebook groups, but I also see it on Therapist Connect. Whenever we share her poetry on Instagram, it gets a lot of comments and likes, and even sometimes people taking the poetry and putting it on their own Instagram, to the point where I have to send messages saying, please can we remember to put Sam's name on it, or to directly copy from Therapist Connect. But I think this is just a testament to how excited people get when they see a poem, when they're really moved by something. And like you say, when they like your illustration, I think, of listening to a piece of music and getting really moved by it, and that kind of, oh God, goodness, I want to share that, I want to comment on it or whatever. So, check it out, folks. And we're hoping to later on in the year have Sam come along to our book club as well. So yeah, so stay in touch with Therapist Connect. And yeah, thank you, Sam. Good to have you here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.